at one of IHOP's 26 San Diego locations.
You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio on ESPN Radio 1700. Now, live in studio, local and national real estate expert and consumer advocate, Ron Siegel.
And hello again. Welcome to Ron Siegel Radio. This is the show with no real boundaries as we discuss current events, financial markets, politics, sports, even poking fun at the rest of the media. This is the show that connects the dots of confusion delivered by conflicting media reports. We connect the dots so you know the actions you can take, how your family, your business can benefit from current events. And thank you for joining me. Before we get into our intriguing content this morning, please join me in welcoming our featured guest, Lisa Lewis, Preferred Care. Welcome.
Good morning.
Glad to have you with us. And let me remind you, if you ever have any home or finance-related questions, I am the consumer advocate looking out for you. And you can reach out to me directly at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Just remember, that's the number you call anytime for assistance. When you call that number, it comes directly to me first. There are no operators standing by. I am it.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
While I do have a great team when it comes to developing a financing plan or plan to save you money, I personally work with you. Even if you don't have any needs today, don't just save this number in your phone for future reference, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The Ask Your Mortgage Advocate question this morning. Can I qualify for a new loan if I pay down my debt a little bit? Well, here's the issue. You don't even have to pay off your debt. That's the beauty of understanding the guidelines. If you have too much debt to get a new loan, and it's installment debt or revolving debt, in some instances you need to pay it off completely. But there are other instances where actually if you pay off say a car loan, you've got a car that you're buying, not a lease, but if you're buying a car, if you get your car payments down to less than 10 payments, under most circumstances, that obligation can be removed from your debt to income ratio. So if you have a $400, $450, $500 car payment, I just saw someone recently with a car payment a little over $500. If they'll pay that down under 10 payments, they can take that off their debt to income ratio, and then it might help them qualify for a new home loan. Just a thought there. Not everybody watches the intricacies of guidelines. That's why I am your mortgage advocate looking out for you. Speaking of looking out for you, are you still watching the gas prices? Did you make the phone call yesterday? I shared with you the numbers. I got a lot of commentary about it. Gas prices nationally, about $2.60 a gallon. It's the AAA national gas prices, about $2.60 a gallon. I was driving back from our San Diego studios yesterday. Best I could find, the best pricing I found was Costco. I didn't stop at every gas station. No, I didn't do that. But Costco was about $3.94. Everywhere else was in the mid-fours. $4.45 was about the norm of what I saw here in California. And I'm looking as of July 28th report. This is from AAA. So that came out just a few hours ago. $2.70 per gallon is the national average. How does it feel? Like being stiffed? Welcome to the state of confusion. I mean, state of California. I guess I shouldn't say state of confusion. But maybe that's part of the reason. I saw this story. I had to share this with you today. I forgot which periodical it came out of. But it's talking about the issue that in California, we've gotten to the point that most people don't vote anymore. 42% of California's registered voters bothered to mail in their ballots or show up at a polling place in the last election. Now, here's when it's real, when you really know you've got a problem. Oregon, 69.5% of their people showed up to vote in 2014. 69.5%, that's about a third more than showed up in California. And we wonder about the idea of why our gas prices are so high and we have no water. You got the loons. That's who's showing up in most instances. Not all of them. I shouldn't say all are the loons. I mean, I vote, so I would probably be considered a loon by many. But here's the issue is if you're not happy with paying too much for gas, if the governor cannot convince you that dead grass is not golden, then maybe you want to start voting, and maybe, I've done this one before too, anybody but the incumbent. Right? In some instances, it's anybody but the incumbent. The incumbents, in most instances, have got us where we are. That's the problem. So think about that one. I'm looking at another report. This one, I believe it came out of the San Diego Tribune, San Diego Union Tribune, and talking about, in California, our idea of fiscal responsibility. Yeah.
You know better than that.
Yeah, Californian fiscal responsibility. No, we don't have that kind of thing going on here. They're talking about building a couple of very, very long tunnels to deliver water. Where are we going to get the money for it? They don't mention that idea. They figure it'll show up. Kind of like that train that's going to go from where nobody is to where nobody wants to go to. That's the one. But they're going to do this to deliver water. They say that it'll spend billions of dollars for the water tunnels, and they're not sure that anybody wants them. And they're not sure that it'll deliver any additional water to places where water is needed. Only in California would we go and spend money for something like that. And the governor just tells people, and I'll quote here, "Shut up," is what he told the critics. We want to spend this money. I guess, is that the definition of a shovel-ready job? Just a simple question from one simple guy. And no one is talking about this other concept here that's in the news right now as well. Have you heard this one, that there is a 95% chance, and I don't know how they rank percentages when it's something like this, but we're looking at a 95% chance of a significant El Nino event this year. It's according to the National Weather Service's North American Multi-Model Ensemble Forecast. Whatever the heck that means. 95% chance of a strong El Nino and a greater than 60% chance of the strongest El Nino in recorded North American history. Now, this is a report that came out yesterday, and I'm obviously reporting it to you today. Not a lot of places cover this. This is on Breitbart.com, great source of information. Don't tell that to anybody in Sacramento. They don't believe anything Breitbart has to say. But they do come out with some very, very good information. So I just shared with you the information about building tunnels, and I'm sharing information with you about a 95% chance of an El Nino event, 60% chance, strongest El Nino in recorded North American history. Anybody planning for it? Has anybody talked about what we need to be doing to get ready for it? Generally, we see our strongest rains generally come, most of the time in Southern California, it's February. But if we've got this El Nino event coming, wouldn't it make sense, instead of waiting until the day before a storm, to try and maybe talk about sandbags, maybe talk about collection methods, maybe talk about how we can capture some of this water that may be coming? If that's the situation, why is nobody talking about capturing water that we so desperately need?
It is what it is.
Absolutely.
So I know whose ass to kick.
Yeah, well, it's more of, I better not say what I was thinking right there, because I don't think he's looking at kicking anybody's. Maybe it's kissing somebody's, but that's a different subject for a different day. Unbelievable where we head with some of these pieces of information. Unbelievable. Have you watched any of the new legislation? I know the president, he's really busy. He's got that phone, can't call citizens. He calls illegal aliens, he calls criminals, but the average citizen, he can't do that. Well, there's new legislation going through that sanctuary cities can't be allowed to harbor felons. I'm kind of scratching my head here. Those of you that are watching us, livestream.com. Actually, I think you could probably go to RonSiegelRadio.tv, and you'll see me scratching my head, kind of like a monkey right there. Unbelievable. So we've got a law or a bill coming out saying you can't harbor felons. Now, am I missing something? Do we need another law to say that we need to do what we already do? Don't we already have a law on the books for that says, you got to enforce the laws of the land, that when Congress passes a law and the president signs it, there is a duty and obligation to enforce it? Maybe next year I can just go and say that, I don't want to pay my taxes and think I can get away with it. It's just one of those laws that we don't want to follow. I don't think so, but
What are you doing?
that's what we have to say in Sacramento, and obviously Mrs. Pelosi.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Now, I've played that for years now, that same recording of her, and I'll play it again for you. I want to speak on this for just 1 second.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
I think she should change that. We have to pass the bill so you can find out what's in it, and if we want to enforce it. Because obviously we don't have to enforce all the laws in the U.S. We'll talk more about it. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. When we come back, real estate buyer demand continues to outpace housing supply. Really? Surprising way you can impact your mortgage. 2-year degrees that yield the best job prospects. A 2-year degree. Maybe you don't have to go in debt that way. And what's happening in our community and with our seniors, all that and more. You can reach me anytime. Call our off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Are you a veteran, own a home, and need money? The Siegel Lending Team is here to help veterans refinance and get the money they need. The VA 100 lets you borrow up to 100% of your home's value, refinance your mortgages, consolidate credit cards, and lower your payments by an average of $700 a month. And the Siegel Lending Team knows that character means more than a credit score. Call 800-306-1990. That's 800-306-1990. Rate subject to change without notice. Licensed by the California Department of Corporations, NMLS 21037, and DRE number 018694552.
Ron Siegel Radio Date Night Trivia, presented by Reunion Kitchen and Drink. Friday, Ron will pose a question based on-air conversations during the prior 7 programs. The person to post the answer according to the guest conversation will win a date night package, including a dinner gift card for Reunion Kitchen and Drink. You might even be able to say hi to Ron when you visit Reunion Kitchen and Drink.
In these uncertain times, it's getting harder and harder to find a safe and effective method of investing. If you're looking at retirement options that can provide some real security for you and your family, look no further than a reverse mortgage with Siegel Lending Team. Hundreds of thousands of other Americans are already taking advantage of reverse mortgages. It allows you to eliminate monthly mortgage payments, pay some bills, or simply enjoy your retirement more. A government-insured reverse mortgage with Siegel Lending Team allows seniors to stay in their home and turn their equity into tax-free cash. To qualify, there are no credit score requirements, and remember, you continue to retain complete ownership of your home. Call 1-800-306-1990 to receive a new special edition handbook, Feature Reverse Mortgage Borrowers, plus an educational brochure absolutely free. Find out more. Call Siegel Lending Team today, 1-800-306-1990. SiegelLendingTeam.com, that's SIEGEL LendingTeam.com, or 1-800-306-1990.
Are you a veteran, police officer, firefighter, doctor, nurse, or teacher? If so, you qualify as one of Ron Siegel's VIP heroes, and we have rewards up to $5,000 or $10,000 when you buy, sell, or refinance a home with one of the Ron Siegel radio partners. As one of the heroes, real estate agents will rebate part of their commission. Lending partners will give a credit at closing. The title company has special published rates, and many other service providers have incentives too. All you need to do is call Ron Siegel Radio at 1-800-306-1990. That's 1-800-306-1990. Or visit VIPHeroProgram.com. Just think about what you will do with all the rebates and incentives from the partners of Ron Siegel Radio. Just call us at 800-306-1990 so we can show you our appreciation for your service.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That's my message, and as your consumer advocate, I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, the real-time real estate segment today brought to you by the VIP Hero program. If you fit into one of our heroes, and if you don't know who they are, go to VIPhero.com. If you fit in as one of our heroes, there are all kinds of discounts available for you in the real estate transactions, actually all kinds of financial transactions. So go check it out, see if you qualify, VIPHeroprogram.com. Buyer demand continues to outpace housing supply. So let's think about this. Economics 101 with Ron Siegel Radio. When demand outpaces supply, what happens? Prices go up. Inventory levels and demand. Sales of existing homes rose 3.2% from May, outpacing year-over-year figures for the 9th consecutive month. Total unhousing inventory is at a 5-month supply, down from 5.1 month supply, and remains below that magic number of 6 that's needed for a historically normal market. So it's telling us that we've got more demand than we have, or more demand than supply. If that's the issue, the concept is prices will go up. Prices go up. That's good news for you if you're contemplating selling your house. Now, if you're trying to get into the market, that just says do it now. If you're looking at buying a house and then purchasing another one, that's called a move-up buyer or a right-size buyer if you're buying something smaller, you're at par. It doesn't matter whether it goes up or goes down if you're buying, because the new property is going to do the same thing. So you should act now. The question becomes is if you're cashing out, well, then it just becomes a different issue. The issue of cashing out, when is the right time to cash out? If you're saying, I'm going to sell my house and start renting, not buying again, well, the answer to that question really becomes, how many years do you have left to live? Because I promise you, very rarely do I make guarantees, but I would promise 3,000 years from now, your property is going to be worth more than it is today. Unless we have one of those catastrophic events and become Arizona beachfront property. Not likely. But think about that. That's where the issue is. So if that's the case, if its property is going to be worth more 10, 20, 50, 100,000 years from now, what's really important is you and your family. Make that decision, act on the decision. And again, we shared yesterday when we were talking about stories with Krista, there's a lot of agents out there that are fine people, not experienced. When you're talking about your family's largest financial transaction, your house or your mortgage, I suggest you get in touch with somebody that really knows what they're doing, and I'd be happy to put you in touch. I don't know all these things. I just talk radio every morning, but I get to talk to a whole lot of people, and when you get an opportunity to talk to a whole lot of people, you might pick up, some of it eventually sticks, and I'm happy to share that information with you. That is the real-time real estate segment, again, brought to you by the VIP Hero program. So this morning, we get to chat a lot about different subjects with Lisa Lewis. Preferred Care is the name of her company. We've chatted about the concept of taking care of mom and dad, loved ones, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, and unfortunately, sometimes you have kids that need special care as well. And you need assistance, and Lisa's company does that. One of the things that we wanted to chat a little bit about this morning is, how about planning? Think about that concept, planning for the unexpected. I shared with you in the opening segment that we are told by the National Weather Service there's a 95% chance of an El Nino effect. Well, there's a 100% chance that we're going to die. At this point in time, we don't have any other way out. So the idea here is, if you want to give your kids or your grandkids a gift, it's called a plan. It's called an estate plan, a trust, a will, medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney, and I don't even know all the other things because I'm not an attorney. But I do know enough to put you in touch with some really good people that can help when the time is right. And the time is right is sooner rather than later. But what do you do when you have to execute those documents? And that's what I wanted to chat with Lisa about today, is what kind of mindset does it take? I mean, when a person gets to the point, I mean, you do all the right things. You take mom and dad down, you have a trust done with all the powers that are supposed to be there. And, I've talked to enough estate attorneys or elder law attorneys, and it's not a pleasant discussion with mom and dad.
No, it never is.
But it's even less pleasant when you have to execute them.
Yes.
Right? I mean, when you get to that stage of life when mom or dad is failing and somebody has to step up and make a decision.
Well, it's hard on several levels. The first one is that adult child has to wrap their head around the fact that mom and dad is failing.
Right.
I mean, it's really easy to sit back and pretend it's not happening, or in your mind say, oh, mom's not as good as she was yesterday or last month or last year. But to actually go to the point and say, you know what, mom can no longer take care of herself. She can no longer make good financial or medical decisions, and it's time for me to step in and have that conversation with her and go through all the legal steps to do that. That's quite another, emotionally, intellectually, that's really, really difficult for those children.
Yeah, it's a tough time. So then the question, that would bode the question, are children, do you recommend that children even be involved or given that authority?
It depends on the child.
Okay, I guess that sounds like a pretty obvious answer right there, right?
Well,
but I mean, even if you've got a child that doesn't give a hoot, you don't want to give them that authority.
Absolutely.
If you've got a child that's really close to the parent, they're going to be dealing with their own emotions, and are they going to be mentally sound or qualified to make those decisions?
And I tell families all the time, if they're talking about, and when I'm talking to the senior themselves, about doing this, if they've not already done it, I'll tell them, you really need to weigh very heavily, very carefully, who you choose to be your powers of attorney. And your children may not be the best person. They may be, but you want somebody who not only is looking out for your best interest, but who is strong enough to step up and take those steps when the time comes, and is not going to be overwhelmed by emotion.
Yeah, that's the question there then, obviously, and there is no right answer, obviously.
No,
here.
there's not.
Maybe some of the attorneys who have dealt with, well, they probably don't deal with it as close as you do. They're dealing from a legal standpoint. You get involved in the emotional, right, because you're right there with mom and dad and the family. But the question becomes is, how do you even know, right? I mean, if you only get, most of us only get 2 chances dealing with mom and dad, if we're lucky, right? I mean, that's the issue. And until that happens, you don't know how you're going to react.
No, you don't. And that's why I encourage children to start looking at this ahead of time. Okay, mom is getting more confused all the time. She's not following through with appointments, even though they're on her calendar. She is leaving mail unopened. These are indicators that things are really starting to head that direction. So you might want to start looking at it. If it's easier for kids, if it's a gradual step into that pond, rather than, you're diving headfirst into it with no preparation. So to start to raise those issues and the red flags, and this is what we're looking at, this is what we're seeing ahead of time, at least gives the adult child time to wrap their head around it and make peace with it.
Yeah, and you have to, the issue then obviously comes up because, I'm even seeing some of these things with spouses that are, late 70s, early 80s, where one spouse doesn't want to admit that their other spouse is having cognitive issues.
Absolutely.
And then you look at it and say, okay, who's to step in?
Right.
How do you deal with that? I mean, are there services out there that one can call that to try and, You don't want to say protect one spouse from another, but it really is.
Well, there are mediators who can come in and try and talk through some of this with the families.
It's like an intervention almost.
Yeah. Trying to get somebody who knows the situation but is not a family member is usually the best person to get in there to try and get that conversation started.
Interesting stuff. We're going to talk more about this with Lisa Lewis, Preferred Care, when we come back. Surprising way your job can impact your mortgage, 2-year degrees that yield the best job prospects, all that and more. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate, current events, and the financial markets. You can reach me anytime. Our off-air number, it's 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Connect with us, facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio, on Twitter @Ron Siegel. Stay tuned. We will be back in just a few.
Siegel Lending Team offers you buying power. Let's say you can afford a monthly mortgage payment, including principal and interest, of around $1,985. With today's rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage of 4.75% APR, 4.812% of that payment could support a $375,000 mortgage. But if you wait and rates tick up to around 6.5%, which is roughly the average home mortgage rate over the past 30 years, that same $1,985 mortgage payment, including principal and interest, may only be able to support a $314,000 mortgage. That's $61,000 worth of home that you're missing out on by waiting. All you need to do to get started is reach out to the Siegel Lending Team. 800-306-1990. That's 800-306-1990. Payment example excludes taxes and insurance. Call us for full details at 800-306-1990. That's 800-306-1990 or SiegelLendingTeam.com. Equal housing lender, licensed under NMLS number 6066 and 217037.
Southern California attorneys have over 15,000 real estate agents to call in Orange County for their personal and professional needs. Why do they overwhelmingly call Melinda Johnson? Simple. It's the Melinda Johnson trifecta. Melinda is an attorney, real estate broker, and realtor. Does your family deserve the same professional services California lawyers demand? Call Melinda Johnson at 714-863-5485. That's 714-863-5485. Or on the web at freedomfirstproperties.com.
Are you purchasing or own a luxury home? If you're like so many others, your home is your largest asset and the mortgage is your largest debt. The Siegel Lending Team has some amazing financing opportunities right now. Jumbo loans up to $2 million, 30-year rates below 4%, 15-year rates near 3.5%, and if you can believe it, 7-year interest-only hybrids in low 3s. The Siegel Lending Team has all the options for your jumbo or second home loan requirements. Take advantage of them while you can. To learn more about all the other financing products available from the Siegel Lending Team, call 1-800-306-1990. That's 1-800-306-1990. Or visit SiegelLendingTeam.com. That's SIEGEL LendingTeam.com. Again, call 1-800-306-1990. Rates subject to change without notice. Licensed by NMLS ID 217037 and 145502. Equal housing lender.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That's my message, and as your consumer advocate, I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The Mortgage Minute today brought to you by Commerce for a Cause. You have a small business. Do you accept credit cards? If you do, you're paying some sort of a credit card processing fee. Commerce for a Cause will look at that processing fee, match your fees you're getting currently. Maybe they'll even give you some better deal. And on top of that, give 20% of your processing fees back to the charitable organization of your choice. Think about that. So if you've got, $1,000 or $2,000 a month in processing fees, well, maybe you're going to be giving $200, $400 a month to a charity, and it doesn't come off your bottom line. It comes off the processing company's bottom line, not yours. I love that idea. So what are some of the surprising ways your job can impact your mortgage? Underwriters look at a lot of different areas to determine what makes sense when granting a mortgage, and all they're really looking for is to make sure they want two things. They want to know that they're going to get their payments on time, that the investor is going to get paid on time, and that they're going to get their money back. So with that in mind, there are all these guidelines that they must enforce. And some of the guidelines are things that you might not think about. One of them, how long of a commute do you have, and will that affect your mortgage? Well, if you've got a 200-mile commute and you're saying that my primary residence, here's a good example. You live in La Jolla and you say that you're working in Calabasas or Westlake Village. There might be a need for a little bit of questioning there as to how are you making that commute each day? Again, how does it work? Are you going to have to rent another piece of property to live in? Or is it telecommuting? If that's the case, make sure there's some sort of notation in your file about it. Is it a primary residence? Is it a secondary residence? Is it a second home? Is it an investment property? A lot of people try to swindle, so to speak, the lender and say, well, it's my primary residence, it's 200 miles away from my job, and they just want the primary owner-occupied rate on the mortgage. Well, if there's not logic in there as to how that can possibly happen, an underwriter is going to look at it and say, no, I don't think so. It's either a second home or an investment property, and that's the order of the way pricing fits as well. So a second home is going to be a little bit more money than a primary residence, and an investment property is going to be significantly more. Think about it. Now, in this day and age of telecommuting, I see a lot of times that we consult with people and they tell us that their company is in Houston or in New York, yet they live in California. Well, then it's just a matter of a simple letter stating, hey, I telecommute, or my territory is here, but my corporate headquarters is there. But if you just leave it to the questioning of an underwriter, they don't know, so they basically have to assume the worst because that's their job. It's to find out where the file can go south is basically it. And if you can take care of leaving those breadcrumbs in advance so that the underwriter knows the file's not going south, you're going to be better off. That is today's Mortgage Minute, again brought to you by Commerce for a Cause. Continuing our conversation this morning, Lisa Lewis, Preferred Care. We've been chatting this morning about kids stepping up. And I say kids stepping up because I watch this in many instances. Now that we do the radio show and we're on the TV streaming every day, maybe it's on the computer streaming, I don't know, I guess I'm dating myself when I say TV streaming. On the computer streaming every day, you start talking to more and more people. And out at these public events that we're doing, you hear, kids have their own lives. And even though they may have two parents that are 70s or 80s, they're like, let them deal with it on their own. I don't have time. Do you ever come across that one?
Yes.
It's a tough challenge.
Well, excuse me, it is. Because we can't give up our lives completely and our responsibilities completely to care for our parents or to make the decisions for them. However, we have to be able to find some sort of balance, because if we leave our parents to care for themselves or to their own devices, many times that leads to way bigger problems in the long run.
And then we're picking up pieces that are, instead of taking care of it. Now, I understand the solution, or there's many solutions, but the one that makes sense to me, or the most sense to me, is obviously having somebody there that's available to outside consultants or guidance. I mean, I'm always promoting a household board of directors, and as our parents get older, and sometimes when we have, there's a lot of people nowadays that have special needs kids too. As we start seeing more and more of that, we have to start looking and saying, okay, what are the outside options? What are our other options for consultants, so to speak?
And you do need a plan. You need somebody that you can talk to that knows the ins, the outs, and where all of this could possibly go, so that you can sit back and you can develop a plan. An A, B, and C plan is what I tell families. Under the best of circumstances, this is your A plan. Nothing really goes wrong. You continue on, and you go, a little bit more care. Or what happens if one of them ends up in the hospital and the other one has dementia and is unable to care for themselves? They're not going to be able to stay together at that point. So you need a B and a C plan. So you need to plan ahead and understand what could possibly be along that road.
But here's the challenge that I see with it, Lisa, because I've gone through and I've experienced it, is we're just, as a society, we're so busy with our lives that we really don't think about the what ifs.
Right.
So, there's so many people now coming with, or maybe, I don't know if there's more people coming or being diagnosed with some of the cognitive issues, dementia, Alzheimer's, Lewy body, all of the different ones that are in there. I don't know if there's more people that are getting afflicted with these diseases, or we understand them a little bit more, so we've defined them instead of just throwing them all. We used to always refer to them as senile.
Right.
But the question now becomes, we're busy, we're not planning for that. Where do we get those? Where are those resources? Are there support groups out there?
There are, but you need to know that you've got a problem to know which support group to join. I mean, there's an Alzheimer's support group, there's a Lewy body dementia support group, there's a support group for people who have families who have suffered traumatic brain injury. But you really want somebody to talk to ahead of time that can say, look, you need to plan, you need to look at these things. One of the first conversations I have with families is, okay, we can come in and we can do care right now, but is this your long-term solution? For some families it is, and it's the only thing that they want. But I tell them, you need to look at the medications your parents are taking. Take those to the doctor and say, do they need all of these? I mean, start with something that's as basic as that. Start, making sure that the doctors are talking to you and not just your parents, so you know what's happening. But going all the way along the line is, you need to know that you've got those powers of attorney in place so that you can enact them when you need to. You need to know, okay, so if mom can't stay at home anymore, is she going to live with one of the family members, or are we going to start to look at some sort of assisted care? And if we're looking at some sort of assisted care, does she have memory issues, or is she just aging? You need to look at at least what you know now, and try and look ahead. And I have those conversations, and they're hard conversations for the families. They're not hard for me to have, but that's what we talked about, starting the conversation. You've got to start getting those kids thinking about it.
At what stage do you think that we need to go from, and maybe you don't even know this answer, I'm just throwing it out there because it came to my mind, and I'm sure that if it comes to my mind, others will maybe think in the same thing. As a young person, if we're smart, we go to a relatively young estate planning attorney. Mm-hmm. Josh and Laura Meyer come to mind. Frequently, I send a lot of people over to them in Newport Beach. Young couple, both attorneys, helping people on a regular basis, taking care of the young family, because they've got a young family. But at some point, and I didn't even realize this until the last year or two, that there's a world of different, that there's a million different kinds of lawyers. Mm-hmm. But even when you get into estate planning, there's the lawyers that create the estate plans, and a completely separate set of lawyers that deal with executing the estate plans.
Yes, and as your parents are aging, or you're aging yourself, you need to start looking at the bigger aging picture. So going to see an elder law attorney, somebody that specializes in those end-of-life times, is really, it's critical, because you want to make sure that not only that estate plan that you put together 20 years ago is up to date, but that it covers all of anything that might have changed. If a spouse dies, you have inherited property. I mean, all kinds of things happen to us between when we start that estate planning process and when we actually have to enact those documents. So they need to be up to date, but not by one of these mills that just processes and says, oh, we'll update your stuff for $250 or $350. That's not going to help anybody, because those are not all of them, but that's where a lot of people really run into problems.
And when you start talking about the taxation issues, right? I mean, if you have just a will and you have a house, and don't quote me on the exact numbers, but say you've got a $300,000 house and a will but no trust, you're probably going to be looking at a $15,000 tax bill just because you did the wrong documents. Mm-hmm. Think about that, and it could have been saved with a $2,000 or $3,000 trust done the right way, updated the right way. And I'm going to share a little bit of a story with you when we come back. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate, current events, and the financial markets. Story time with Ron when we come back. I'll share a little personal experience, a couple of 2-year degrees that yield the best job prospects. Talk about that one as well. You can reach me anytime. Call our off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Connect with us, facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio, on Twitter @Ron Siegel. Also, our programs, the archived audio, ronsiegelradio.com, and the archives, ronsiegelradio.tv, if you want to see my bright and shining face. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Do you have a goal of mortgage-free home ownership? What if your home was valued at $500,000? Are you aware that a free and clear home could be costing you $2,500 every month, $30,000 per year? The mortgage planners at the Siegel Lending Team would like to show you how you can own your home, generate tax-free income, and accumulate family wealth. You simply need to call Ron Siegel at 1-800-306-1990. That's 1-800-306-1990. By sending the team a copy of your most recent mortgage statement, the team will send you a no-obligation mortgage adoption plan. You be the judge if it's right for your family. Again, all you have to do is send the team a copy of your mortgage statement by email to map@ronsiegelradio.com or call today Ron Siegel, 1-800-306-1990. That's 1-800-306-1990. Rate subject to change without notice. Licensed by the California Department of Corporation and MLS 217037 and BCAL number 018694452.
Are you currently renting a home? Do you like paying someone else's mortgage payment? Why not explore the options to purchase your own home? Can you imagine a 30-year fixed-rate loan below 4.25% APR? This means with $10,500, you can purchase a $295,000 home and have a principal and interest payment of about $1,400 per month. What are you paying in rent? Does your family deserve the opportunity to take advantage of the current market? To learn more about these exciting opportunities, the Siegel Lending Team is standing by to speak with you. Call now, 1-800-306-1990. That's 1-800-306-1990. Or visit SiegelLendingTeam.com. That's SIEGEL LendingTeam.com. Or 1-800-306-1990. Rate subject to change without notice. Licensed by NMLS ID 217037 and 145502. Equal housing lender. Not endorsed or sponsored by any government agency.
Homeowners that are 62 and older are about to find out a great way to live a better retirement. It's called a reverse mortgage, and SLT can help you learn more. Call the Siegel Lending Team at 800-306-1990 right now to receive your free booklet with no obligation. It answers questions like how a reverse mortgage works, how much you qualify for, the ways to receive your money, and more. When you call the experts at Siegel Lending Team today, you'll learn the benefits of a government-insured reverse mortgage, how it will eliminate your monthly mortgage payments, and give you tax-free cash from the equity in your home. Here's the best part. You still own your home. Now is the best time to take control of your retirement. Call 800-306-1990. That's 800-306-1990 to get your free brochure. Call today or visit our website at SiegelLendingTeam.com. That's SIEGEL LendingTeam.com. Or simply call 800-306-1990.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That's my message, and as your consumer advocate, I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The Word on Wealth segment today brought to you by CreditSanitizer.com. You have a credit report. It's wrong. Every one of them are wrong that I've ever seen, at least. The question being, what are you going to do about it? Very simple. Call credit or go online. CreditSanitizer.com is the place where you can get solutions. They can help you. They've got some, they're even part of the VIP Hero program. So if you are one of the qualified group, pretty good sized group there, they've got some special programs for you as well. 2-year degrees that yield the best job prospects. How about an associate degree that leads to employment? Can you imagine that we want to get a degree and we really want to even be employed after that?
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
So here they are, and why do I share this with you? It's very simple. We've gotten away from a couple of things that I believe are very, very important in our society. One of them is education is wonderful, and pushing for education is wonderful. The issue is at what expense and for what return on investment. Now, I'm not one of those that believe everybody needs to go to college. Not everybody needs a 4-year degree. Unfortunately, we've gotten rid of some of the things in our society that when I grew up, maybe when you grew up, we could go to a trade school and learn. They had, I believe it was called R.E.A.P. I haven't seen any of that R.E.A.P. stuff around in ages, but you could go and learn to drive a truck, and it didn't cost you a boatload of money. You could go to learn to be a craftsman, a plumber, a carpenter, a contractor of some sort. Those are important jobs in our society. They're very, very, many of them are really good. Plumbers are one of the top paying jobs there is in our country, and most people don't even realize that it's amongst the highest paying jobs in the country is that of being a plumber. Yet, where do you learn that? But you can go to a 4-year school and walk out with $50,000 or $60,000 or $70,000 of debt, and people are lining up to do it. I think it's pretty much crazy. I don't recommend it. I look for the return on investment. But how about the 2-year schools? Most of the 2-year schools we used to call them the junior colleges. I don't know why. I mean, there's that blue school in Los Angeles I usually refer to as the junior college. Of course, I've always been a USC fan myself. But here's a couple of those 2-year programs that are going to get you a nice job needed and a return. Registered nurse. Median salary, $65,470. There are over 1 million projected job openings in the field through 2022. 1 million job openings. Dental hygienists. Similar to nurses, dental hygienists are in significant demand. Median salaries are just over $70,000. Bureau of Labor Statistics expects 113,000 job openings through 2022. I can't even say this one because I don't understand it. Engineering technician. I do radio. I can't figure out engineering technician. But median salaries between $45,000 and $62,000, and we're going to need about 90,000 of them. Respiratory therapist. Median salary just under $56,000. We need 40,000 of them. Computer network support technician. Median salary just over $59,000. Web developer. Median salary just about $62,500. Diagnostic sonographer. Again, I have no clue what that is. Just about $66,000 a year. How about an air traffic controller at $122,530 a year? Think about all these jobs that are a 2-year degree, and I would suggest, I don't know, maybe I'm missing it, but I don't know of any 2-year degrees that you're going to come out with tens of thousands of dollars in debt. Just a thought. That's the Word on Wealth segment brought to you by CreditSanitizer.com. So we're chatting before the break about kids stepping up to make decisions when the parents are unable to, getting your household board of directors in line, and having to modify that household board of directors as your parents age. Many of us, I call them the sandwich generation, lucky enough to be taking care of mom and or dad and kids as well. Maybe not even taking care of the kids, but you've got kids, so you're going to still give your 2 cents worth. But if you're in that generation, things are changing. Everyone's getting older. The kids are getting older. The guidance you need for them is changing. Mom and dad are getting older. The guidance that you need to help them make good decisions is changing. And you need the proper guidance. And I'm going to share a little quick story with you, and then we're going to get back into this with Lisa. And a lot of it has to do with some guidance I got from Lisa when my dad was passing. And we knew that things were heading south. We knew things were not good. And they had done all the things that you're supposed to do, my parents. They had the trust and the will and the powers of attorney and all those documents, and they had updated them because dementia and Parkinsonism and Lewy body, all those different diseases are not quick. They happen they're progressive diseases. They force the victim to suffer for a long time. Just the way it is. That's the way I just call it like it is. The victim really has to suffer. They take their dignity away in many, many ways. But then when you get to the very, very end, you still, as a child, as a support mechanism, don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what mom and dad are entitled to. And my dad ended up being on hospice for a period of time. And we were lucky enough, I had been introduced to an elder law attorney, Dan York, here in Southern California. And by picking up the phone and making a phone call to Mr. York, I was able to find out that some of the things that we were being told by the hospice company, and I'm not going to mention their name, weren't quite exactly the way they were supposed to be. And simply by getting good guidance, we were able to give better care to my dad in his last days and weeks. It's a tough subject to talk about. Not pleasant, nobody likes it. But it's the facts of life. I couldn't imagine anything in my world that would be worse than watching a child pass. So it's supposed to be that we see our parents go. And guidance is important. And I just share that with you because I want you to have that ability. So one of the things there is when you're looking for somebody to help take care of mom and dad, so you maintain that relationship as long as you can as the parent and child relationship. When you get to the point, and I was given this guidance by another frequent contributor on the radio program, when you have to start helping mom or dad go to the bathroom, your relationship changes forever. And Lisa, you've probably experienced this way more than I have with clients.
And personally. Yes.
Well, I don't ever bring up personal stuff other than my own, right? But right, I mean, it changes, and understanding that there are companies out there like yours that can come in and help give not only the kids, because the kids we look at it and say, okay, well, it's my parent and it's something I should be doing. Mom and dad, they wipe my behind. Why can't I wipe theirs? But that's really taking away their dignity.
Yes, it is. Because, I can speak from personal experience. My mother was an intensely private person and did not want me to do that, didn't want anybody to do that for her. And she often said, when I get to that point, I don't want to live anymore. She got to that point and she didn't. The will to live or die is very, very strong. But no, they don't. And we talk about care with dignity, care with honor. We want to maintain that dignity and that honor for those seniors that are losing those things rapidly. Because, don't we? Isn't that the way we all want to leave this earth? Is with dignity and honor.
And that's one of the things. I hear most of the time when I talk to seniors, and there's usually three things. And I probably won't remember all of them, but they want independence. Mm-hmm. They don't want to have to go to their kids or grandkids for money. They want to be in their own residence, their own property. These are the things that they really want, and let's plan for it to be that way in the golden years. Tell us. We've only got about a minute left, but let's talk a little bit. How much with preferred care you can hire somebody to come in for minimal amount of time? Up to 24-hour care.
Absolutely. Even if it's just, for an hour to come and make sure that mom gets up, takes her medication, and gets breakfast, all the way, to 24-hour awake end-of-life care. We can do it all in between.
make the phone call. And I'm going to suggest to you, I'm going to tell you some of the issues that Lisa won't say because most companies are too smart to say them, but I'm an advocate. So here's the issue. If you can go and find somebody off the street to come in, legal, licensed, bonded, who's going to show up? What are you going to leave yourself open to a labor lawsuit after the fact because you went and tried to save a little bit of money up front? Be careful. Call Lisa, Preferred Care. If you want the number, give me a call, 800-306-1990. I'll be sure to put you in touch with Lisa. And obviously, you can get her information on our website as well. Be sure to set that first radio preset button to come back here every day to join Ron Siegel Radio, where we only speak about items affecting your house and your bank account. Thanks to all of our sponsors. A big thanks to Steve, who's engineering us today. And, of course, a special thanks to you for spending a little bit of your day with us. That's all for Ron Siegel Radio. Again, if you have any questions, call me anytime. 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com. Remember my mantra, make a lot of money, help a lot of people, have a lot of fun, have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on Ron Siegel Radio.
Our house in the middle of our street. Our house.
XAPA 1700 AM, Bahasa Lipunan.
You're listening to ESPN Radio 1700.